Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you are here, then you probably know who I am, and if not, and you just saw the title on the YouTube video and said, I just read that book, this is who wrote it, then I promise you are in the right place. Either way, this is my channel, you are here, and I am Haley Inez. Said before, I am Haley Inez and this is my channel. I know my last video was over the summer. A lot has happened since the summer. We moved, which I feel like every time I start one of these videos I'm like, we moved. But we moved. Our corgi passed away. I've tried so many times in between when that happened and honestly now to like sit down in front of the camera and be able to like talk about it and tell it. I just can't. He was diagnosed with cancer like last year, and so we took him to get chemo, which is safe for dogs. So he'd been doing chemo for a year. He got into remission. He fell out of remission pretty quickly, so he was basically on chemo the entire year. I'm not gonna get like too deep into it because then I will start crying. I was literally crying last night because it's just like honestly like a piece of my heart is gone, and I don't know. I don't think it'll ever be the same. The videos that I was going to do in between were me moving, packing, redecorating, painting and everything, and literally, and like a lot of them is Rupert. He really like hung around me a lot. I mean, there's a lot of times he just would lay on my feet during the day. Anytime I was building something, cleaning my office, rearranging it, he was always there. So it's just, you know, I had to scrap a whole bunch of videos because I just couldn't do it. I couldn't put them together and post them. It was just really sad. So here I am now a couple months later, and we're going to get into this new video. By the way, that's Gandalf. This is what this means. Okay, so we're here because we were talking about Pet Torment. Yay! Pet Torment is officially published, y'all. I finally did it. I got it after a year and a couple months. I am so sorry that it took so long, but it was honestly a fun and rewarding process. So I basically want to talk about the writing process, getting it published, all the changes that I made, and yeah, getting it into y'all's laps. I especially want to get into the changes made because there were so many changes that I made from when I like started, even just the original like rewrite or going through it to now. I mean, it's honestly like crazy how the mind works. For now, let's start with the writing process. Torment obviously is the sequel to Pet Genesis. I jumped into Torment about, I think maybe 12 days after I published Pet Genesis, and I did it because I honestly was not expecting, I feel like this, I always like say this, but it's because I'm a person who like, I keep my expectations low because my life has been full of so many disappointments. So I just keep my expectations low, and then that way, like, you know, I won't be sad very often. Anyways, I wasn't expecting Pet Genesis to be like as big as it got. I honestly thought that it would just be like my Wattpadders who followed me. That's it. I gained an entire like new base of readers, and it wasn't just like from Wattpadders or like my Inkit readers. It was like people who randomly like discovered me on Amazon. Apparently I have a Reddit page, which I don't keep up with all of that stuff because I get so nervous about that kind of thing. I don't read comments, like I've said before. I don't read comments, I don't read reviews. I like stay away from that because honestly it will like make you so depressed if you read how some people like talk about you. Even that one review that I got on Pet Genesis where she gave me 1 star, not because she didn't enjoy the book, because she was upset that it didn't state that the book was part of a series, even though the cover page said book 1 on it. That's the type of thing that I just like stay away from. Like I would just never even know that the review exists. The only way that I know my books are doing well, or like I know that people enjoy them, is actually because people message me on Instagram or comment on my Instagram, which is why I always talk about how I appreciate so much that people reach out to me on Instagram. That's the only way that I know people still like enjoy my writing, honestly, because, and Patreon, of course, like people, but I feel like everyone's so quiet on Patreon. No one really like talks much. I got them to talk a little bit as I was finishing Torment, but my Patreon is very quiet. Everyone just kind of like reads and goes about their lives, which I'm fine with. I'm just, you know, That's the only way that I get any form of like feedback on my books. But I digress. Apparently I have like a Reddit page or a Reddit, I don't know how Reddit works, but like my husband found my name in like Reddit and people were talking about my book and recommending it and stuff. So yeah, I mean, it was really like exciting. Like I said, when people reach out to me on Instagram is like how I know. So many people like days after I published Pet was just like, when's the sequel? When's the sequel? I was gonna wait to work on the sequel, and then I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna jump into it now. Why not? You know, I want to get the entire series out there. Why would I like wait and put it on the back burner and blah blah blah? I was like, let me just jump into it. So 12 days after I published Pet, I jumped into Torment. And so began the writing process. I had to like move the mic because I realized like how ugly it was in the shot. So I had to like move it a little bit. Anyways, so I jumped into writing Torment, which was honestly, I know like I complain a lot when I get to the editing part of writing, but I love writing. It was like so nice to go back and look at the original manuscript for Torment, which honestly was it was so bad. I mean, there was like things in it that obviously was just like put there because I like had the idea and I just wanted it in there, but it didn't really like make sense to exist. And then Remus and Iris's relationship was so weird in like the original manuscript. It was just like she was like angry about Earth being taken and she hated him, and every single second and scene and moment she had like a conversation, she was like, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. It was just like, it was very annoying. Personally, I like hate those kinds of books. It's like obvious I like wrote for Wattpad when I first wrote that manuscript, and now I'm like a seasoned author, so I can like go through and write a decent story that's like cohesive and makes sense. So once I got over the ick of the original manuscript, it was really exciting because I did this whole like world building thing just to even get into like working on the sequel. And I wanted so bad to put, I created a solar system and I drew it and everything. I put it on like my iPad and I was in Procreate and I made it and I sketched it and I was like so proud of myself. So this was where I kept all of my Torment notes. This is just like the original notes for the star system. It's called Anaphalta. That's how you pronounce it. This is the star system. I worked it out. I wanted to have in my head an idea basically of what I wanted like the solar system to basically be. I did so much research for this, y'all. I like discovered so many different planets and how they exist and stuff, and I thought it was so cool. There's like so many different planets out there. Some like rain diamonds and some have oceans of lead. Some are just like the pressure is so crazy that it's just like it's so cool how planets work. And in another life, if I was much smarter than I am now, I swear I'd be like an astronomer. And if I was brave, I'd be an astronaut. I mean, space is so cool to me. I love space. I love everything about it. I'm obsessed with it. Actually, I could spend hours. Like, I know people go down the rabbit holes of like social media. You know, they're like, oh, I've been scrolling for hours. Literally, I will get caught up like on space for hours. I just love it. It's awesome to me. Anyways, I wrote out the entire star system for the story before I even like jumped into it, because I wanted, in my brain, it gave me like basically a base. So in my brain, I wanted a longer scene this time with them traveling to Seranus, which in the original story, if you know, it was named Leviathar, which is just like so cheesy. So I came up with the name Seranus. I love the name Seranus. That's how you pronounce it, Seranus. But I wanted some time with Remus and Iris before they got to Seranus. And so in my brain, I'm like, okay, they travel really fast. Like, you know, they can get there. It's not going to take them like minutes, but it's going to take them like weeks, you know, to travel into like the star system. But even still, I wanted it to be like, okay, once you reach the star system, it still takes you like a good amount of time to reach each planet. And I came up with this really cool concept that I briefly read about. It's like some theory about orbits and stuff, because, you know, each planet like has its own orbit, or each planet orbits like around the sun, and then each like individual planet has like moons and stuff and asteroids and belts and everything, but they're orbiting around like that specific planet because, you know, the gravity and whatever, blah. And so I came up with the concept of like sharp orbits. So you have like your normal orbit where it's just going around the sun, and then you have like your sharp orbits, which are just planets that are in like got knocked into like a sharper orbit. So they could like they cross each other, which is I thought was like a really cool concept. I wanted to expand more on it, but I literally like had to cut out some scenes. But if you notice, and this is like a little spoiler, if you notice, Remus does briefly speak about how they can only harvest from certain planets like certain time of year because of the sharp orbits. So like basically the planet is like too far for them to try and travel to. In sci-fi terms, you have to like calculate the orbit of planets and stuff to travel to them and all of that. I got that idea actually from The Martian, the movie with Matt Damon, where they like use the orbit to slingshot themselves back to get him from Mars, which I thought was a really cool concept. Stuck with me, and I put it in my book, an idea of it. So anyways, I started with drawing out like the star system so I could give them that time to talk to each other, and it was really fun. Honestly, I came up with like the planets, I came up with their individual like concepts. They all have their own lore and theme and stories, and obviously like Remus mentions a few of them throughout the book. So that was fun. I drew the entire star system. I posted it on my Patreon, but I will like put it here in the corner for y'all to like see. I was really proud of myself for that. I was really like excited about it. Once I got past the basics of making like the star system and making it basically make sense is when I wanted to jump into the concept of Seranus. Please don't make fun of my freaking country southern drawl when I say Seranus. I know it's like so like Seranus. I wanted everything about Seranus to be basically like a perfect utopia. In my brain, perfect utopias are places that whatever the society is can find a way to create a society and a world without like bulldozing nature. If you can tell, I am not a city girl. And I know I live in the city, but that's only because there's like, when I originally moved out here, there was like no job opportunities where I'm from for things that I wanted to do. If you creep on my personal Instagram, I've lived a very exciting life up to this point, and I would not have been able to do that where I'm from, like living in the country. When I think of utopia, it's like a way to intermingle nature with buildings and people and all of that. You're not like destroying your world. You're living in harmony with it. It's a symbiotic relationship, you know? You're making it beautiful. The concept for Seranus was it was inspired by a couple things. There's this artist that I follow on Instagram. His name is Interlink Art, I think. I will like put like the proper name in the corner. Basically, I knew what I wanted it to look like in my mind, and I know what I want Remus's like home world, actual where they're from, to look like once I get there. So I had to like make sure I separated the two because I don't want them to be similar in the least. I want there to be little accents because it's obvious that this place was like built and helped created by like a creature from where their home world is, but I also wanted it to be really like exist within Seranus's like even original layout. That's where like Seranus came from. I just wanted it to be basically like the perfect utopia that Remus grew up in, and why he hated what he saw when he came to Earth, because he was just like baffled and disgusted. I also knew that I wanted each of the siblings to not live near like people. Crafting their homes to be like in conjunction with their personalities was very fun to me personally. It was interesting getting to know my characters on a personal level because of course I know Remus personally, but to write about Shion, and which that's how her name is pronounced, it's Shion, and Ezra, was very interesting for me. But I'll get into that later. For now, we're talking about Remus and his home. Originally, when I wrote it, Remus's home was like this castle in the mountainside. Didn't like it. I'm telling you, when you like first start writing, your brain can't like go past a certain there's like walls there. You can't like imagine putting other things in your stories. And so at the time, I was just like, okay, I'm writing about like palaces and castles. That's like literally, I couldn't think of anything else for someone to like live. I don't know, I just didn't like the concept of like this high-tech futuristic alien living in like a castle, you know, like an old, like a castle with like no electricity, and like there's just fireplaces and sconces and everything. I just didn't like that concept. Love the idea of like houses being carved into the mountain. So I did that with Remus. So when I imagined Remus's home, obviously Remus is someone who likes like landscape, natural lighting, all of that. I just had to put like the windows in. I just had to. I couldn't help myself. And so that's like how I came up with Remus's home. I wanted it to be not like super intuitive to Iris, but I didn't want her to be so like out of her element that she couldn't like maneuver herself, and it would have to be a whole arc, him teaching her how to maneuver around his house. I just prefer the idea that like living organic beings kind of live similarly, because you might be on like a different planet and have different like, but you still have like, fingers and toes and eyes, and it's like it could be different, but it's like it should be like somewhat similar, which is why I came up with the concept of like the gestures to like open things, and like Iris has issues with that. Like I wanted the struggles to be small, not so big that she's helpless when he's not there. So jumping out of world building and into building my characters, because I'm going to get into like all of the changes, like storylines and all of that made. But for now, I just want to talk about, we're going to go into my characters. In the original manuscript, there was no relationship built. There was no relationship being built. There was no relationship between Iris and any of the other supporting characters. They were just there for the sake of furthering the storyline, but they had no like real purpose being there, which I hated. So we're going to break these relationships down. Starting with Remus and Iris, obviously. Their relationship in the original manuscript, like I said earlier, it was just like hostile. It was ugly. It made no sense for just any part of it. I mean, she was just so bitter and mean and hateful, which in some sense is like understandable. But now that the storyline for Pet Genesis changed, where she kind of had her life saved and was like betrayed and understood like, what was actually happening behind the scenes, it was like, okay, her hostility, while warranted, and her like anger at losing her home, yes, should be there, but also like Remus isn't like a horrible person, at least not yet. And if I haven't said it yet, guys, this video is going to be full of spoilers, and it's going to take too much editing to constantly pause and be like, spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. So if you have not read the book, please do not watch this video. Go read the book, then come back, okay? It's just going to be full of spoilers. I'm going to put it right here. I'll make a video at the beginning and be like, hey, there's going to be spoilers, but hey, there are going to be spoilers, and I'm not going to stop every single time to like prepare you for that. So if you haven't read it, once again, go back and read it, then come back. Anyways, one of the hardest things for me was taking Remus out of the book at a certain point. I love Remus. I love when he's on screen. I love him having his moments. He's just a great character to write about because I can just see so much nuance with him. I love his character. So taking him out of the book was like hard. I had to like stick with it though, because what I wanted was for Iris to be able to grow on her own and stand on her own 2 feet. And I wanted to flip it to where she realized that maybe she doesn't like love him yet, but she cares about him. If she didn't care about him when she found out like everything that happened, she would not have gone as far as she did for him. She would have just like, been like, fuck it, whatever. I don't care. He deserves it. But no. She like cares. So it was difficult taking Remus out of the book, but before that I wanted to build their relationship to a point that there was hope, that when he did come back and everything happened that it did, in Iris's mind, she was like looking forward to him returning. There wasn't like a dread and then she's like, oh great, now there's this. It was like, I'm looking forward to, there's like hope for something more, for like a future. So in doing that, it's a very tricky thing to kind of like get down. In doing that, you have to make Remus patient, which another thing I really focused on when I rewrote the first book was Remus's patience. So Remus is quite literally the most patient being in the world. He's lived for a very long time. I think I made his age like 562 or something. He's very old, very patient, very like understanding of the power that he holds. With great power comes great responsibility. Well, except now, like in the third book, he's probably gonna like fuck shit up because he's pissed. But for now, he is very patient. The main like conflict was Iris coming to terms with everything. And it like, I know a lot of people, they're like, oh, they get mad and they're just like, you know, she needs to like get over it, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, think about it. She really like lost everything. She lost her world, she lost her brother, she lost the trust and faith she had in humanity. She lost the battle with Remus to even like prove to him that humans weren't everything that he said that they were. And in the end, she only lived and survived because Remus came and saved her. So with all this in mind, I had to find that like perfect sweet spot to where she's like still angry, but not so angry that there can be no growth between her and Remus. That stems from me creating a curiosity, I guess, in Iris to like enjoy things and be like genuinely curious about things. So it was just this really like this back and forth that I didn't want to drag out too long, because obviously you don't want them to be like fighting and disagreeing and her saying the same thing like constantly, but it had to be this like slow rapport that they were building to every time Iris like spoke to Remus, he could like chip away a little more at her anger. Of course she's like upset, but also there's just like little things that makes her realize or feel like different about it. When I worked on their relationship the second time around, I wanted to like make sure that right there, right at that point where she was like, okay, maybe, like that's when it all just gets like taken away. That's so mean of me, I know, but it had to happen for the story to progress, y'all. Basically was what went into building Remus and Iris's relationship. I didn't want them to be like this beautiful like happy relationship at that point. I did want her to like war with herself a little bit, but yeah, it was fun getting to work on that this time around and not have it be just like, you know, her constantly like bickering. Now, if you notice, and this time around in the book, I put a lot of emphasis around Ezra and Iris's relationship. So in the original, Ezra was just like an asshole. He was an asshole, and he was just like, you know, it would help her because I don't really know. Like, it just made no sense. It's like he's being an asshole, and suddenly because his brother went rogue, he's like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll help you. No. If you notice at like the celebration at the beginning, it's kind of where I start building that relationship because Ezra is very hostile to Noah and is very not hostile to Iris, right? So I wanted to start building that relationship early on because I wanted her to have like a real and true like ally and friend in Ezra. I mean, we'll get more information on like Ezra's story obviously when I write his book, but like for now I wanted him watching like Iris and Remus and like seeing the relationship that they have and like how different Remus is and like meeting Iris and getting to know her as a person. I wanted that to like be genuine and why he wanted everything to go back to normal. I wanted to like protect her and wanted Remus to like come back. Now, and on the flip side of that, Iris and Sky's relationship, I can't even. I mean, like in the first original manuscript when I wrote about like them, they were just like two people who hated each other. I mean, it was just like they got into an actual fist fight in the first original manuscript. Like Sky didn't really like Iris. She didn't talk to her. It was just separate. They were just separate characters. But for certain things to happen in the third book, Sky and Iris need to be friends. Like they need to not only be friends, but they need to like lean on each other for that support because they are both in very similar not relationships. Well, I guess kind of. They're in similar situations. And so like who better to like cling to and kind of bond with than someone who's like in that exact relationship. And I don't know why. I mean, obviously like I was a young writer when I first wrote this entire series, so that's why it wasn't like in the original very much, but like going back and going through it, I'm just like, it was so natural to work on their relationship. Everything that happened when Iris and Remus first encountered each other, like Sky and Ezra are going through that, where it's going through that like off screen, and obviously there's like different circumstances surrounding it, but like Iris knows how she feels, what she's going through. So that, I mean, what it's just perfect. What better way for them to like come together and be friends? And I wanted that also to inspire how Ezra is with Iris, like seeing them get along, seeing them become friends. I mean, not really appreciating some of the things that Iris is instilling in Sky. It's just like little nuances there, which obviously you'll see more once I get into Ezra and Sky's story, but for now, like, yeah, I wanted to, I look back and I'm like, I can't believe I just didn't write about any of these relationships. Now, Iris and Shion, I wanted them to butt heads. They're both strong women who will do like whatever it takes for their point of view. They both care about Remus. They both would like sacrifice and do whatever in a heartbeat for the sake of. Like, they're very similar, but obviously like they don't realize it. So when it came to writing about Iris and Shion, I wanted there to be kind of like a tolerance, I guess, because Shion does keep to herself. She does not like Iris, especially since Iris freaking blasted her brother on Earth, and the whole reason Shion had to even come to Earth was because Remus got knocked on his ass and was like, okay, like, you know, let's just end this now. Shion is very protective of her siblings, and Iris poses a threat to that. I knew I wanted Iris and Shion to butt heads. I just didn't know like how like intense of headbutting I wanted, but I wanted it to be enough that Iris would have to lean more on Ezra, and I wanted it to be enough that once we got to like a certain point in the book, it was understandable that Shion wasn't like on her side 100%. She was just kind of like irritated with this nuisance in their lives that honestly, if she went away, things would be better. But this whole story, like, obviously I'm gonna write about Shion too, and so it's funny, like, while I'm writing, I'm like planning out other characters' stories, and I'm like, for Shion's story, this needed to like, all of this needed to like happen in the way that it did. This needed to like break her down for her story to come to fruition. So it's a sad, like, she has a sad story, but she'll be okay. And finally, the relationship between Iris and Noah. I wrote down Chris on my little like notes where I'm like, what am I going to talk about today? Because like the original name for him was Chris, and I hated it, so I changed it to Noah because I thought that was like a good name that I was fine with parting with. Once again, this is going to be a spoiler, so if you have not read the book, please go read the book and then come back, because this is a big spoiler that I'm about to like drop on you. Noah is I mean, I don't want to give y'all to, you know what, I'm going to give you a little bit of Noah's backstory, just because it's going to be so long before I even write Shion's story. Noah was basically like in the military, got put on a mission because they discovered like Earth 2.0. They're supposed to like fly there. Earth finally got the technology to be able to like travel, and he was a part of like that security team that was supposed to go with them. And then in space, they got caught in a storm, blew them into Sarandis somehow on accident. Haven't figured out the logistics of that yet, but you know, I mean, you know, like freaking in all kinds of movies when they get caught in storms and they're suddenly like at some planet X amount of miles outside of light years away from where they were supposed to be. I wanted to detach myself from Noah because I knew his fate at the beginning of the book. I was like looking back at all 3 manuscripts, and he just doesn't make sense in the story, honestly. He doesn't make sense past the second book. He makes sense for the first book because it's like, you know, that's why they even like went there. But I had some other ideas that I wanted to play with for Shion in the third book, especially since, you know, she figured out her heritage. Just when it came to like Iris and Noah's relationship, I wanted him to just kind of be the constant voice of doubt in her head. I wanted him to like say the things that Shion would not say because she was like loyal to her brother, obviously, and I wanted him to kind of be like that negativity in the story, the thing that would like keep her constantly thinking like, maybe this isn't right, maybe I should just, you know, roll over and not let anything good become of this. I don't really have much to say about him. He like really, I wanted him obviously to be like a heroic character. He had to do what he had to do to make sure that they survived. But the point of him is to show what happens when, I guess, you're not strong enough to protect the one that you love, which is like really sad, y'all. He literally, I mean, and I also wanted to use him to like show how ruthless the mother is. Like, she's ruthless. I mean, obviously it's fucked up that she did everything that she did, but in our brains up until that point, the only person we were like she could be an enemy of is Remus. But in truth and in reality, she also tolerates Shion. Like, the only child that she truly loves and cares about is Ezra. and she almost killed him too. She's a horrible woman. But anyways, those are the relationships that I had to like focus on and build when I worked on this installment of Pet. So it was for sure like completely different. It's like a whole different like, I mean, and that's honestly why it took me so much longer to even like finish the story, because there was just so much that I had to like do and add. But you get all these relationships together and you create all these different like scenarios and different like moods and stuff, and I feel like you don't have to like stick with the main characters to tell the story. I have gotten so into using side characters to tell the stories. I'm like obsessed with it right now. So, which it makes me really excited to get started on like the Blood King, because I'm just gonna do so much. There's like so many like side characters in the Blood King, and I know how to properly like write about them now, so I'm really excited about that. But let's not get sidetracked. Okay, the big one, changes. Oh my gosh, y'all. The changes made in this story, let me tell you. I mean, there was so many new scenes completely added, so many old scenes that were taken out. I want to do a separate video, because this one is going to be like so long because I'm talking about everything, but I want to do a separate video that completely focuses on the changes and the specifics of like every single one that I put in there. But for now, I'm going to condense it just so I can like put all of this together. The changes that I made, I honestly, I can appreciate that some people really liked the original manuscript, but y'all, the original manuscript was just, it was so bad. I mean, it just made no sense. It was just a story. I made a couple of big changes. I think one of like the biggest ones, which I needed for the third book to happen, was changing the parentage of Xion. And you'll see why when we get to the third book. But in the original manuscript, only Remus was like, was Kuran and Marit, which that's how you say their names. That was like their only child together. And then Xion and Ezra were like Leviathan mixed, whatever. Didn't like that, especially since they constantly are talking about how Ezra was always different, and Ezra was the only one with like the different colored eyes. I mean, there's just like so much like that I just can't believe I ignored when I first wrote this story. But I also wanted it to be like, this is why like Remus and Xion are also so close without realizing it, because they see that like similarity in one another, you know? So that was a big change that I made, and I honestly like loved, especially because now it's like it adds so much more to the third book, because originally it was like, okay, we're gonna take Remus back, and also I'm gonna take like these freaking kids who aren't mine back because Remus wants them, but what am I gonna do with them, and I'm just blah blah blah. But this time it's gonna be like Xion is gonna get to know her father and her world also alongside Remus, and it's, you know, I'm not gonna get into it. It's like it's gonna be like the third book is gonna be epic and long, y'all. I'm so excited. One thing that I also changed was the scene where Remus gets like his memory and all of that taken, and his essence snatched and the bond taken away and all of that. I changed that initial scene. I did not like how I originally wrote it out. I felt personally that it was like it didn't give much insight to like why it was happening. You know, she was just kind of like, oh, Remus, you can't be left behind. But it's like, why? Well, what I wanted to do was, instead of like revealing everything at the end, I wanted to like reveal the information needed to understand why this was happening, like right there. And then now everyone knows, and they can like enjoy the story and just be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe like they don't know. And I can't believe that like the mom like was doing this. And like, obviously she's off. Like, it makes sense as to why she's like desperate going around and not like making sure everything is perfectly like back in place now. This was a change that I was going to make and decided not to. The baby scene, y'all. I was going to take that out because I was just like, you know, I was going to take it out. It's like really fucking sad. It's like a sad thing, and I didn't want to write about it. But when I was going through and making all of my changes, I just kind of like zeroed in on that, and I was like, you know, I think actually that this is something that needs to be there, because I wanted something traumatic. It's like fucked up to say, I know, but y'all, I am just the writer, okay? I'm just giving you the story. I wanted something traumatic to happen while Remus was not in his right mind to like Iris, where it's like, oh my gosh, once he like gets it back, it's just like heart like wrenching. It's like not just like heartbreak. It's not just betrayal. It's not like, oh, I hurt her, but it's like I did something unforgivable and fucked up, and I could like rip my heart out right now and like squeeze it at the anguish that I feel. And I don't even like, I wasn't even like in my right mind when I did it. It was because of like her control. It all for me needed to be like that, like dark also to just kind of like circle around to how not only like desperate but like wicked their mother is. Now, a couple things I also changed at the ends of the book with how in the original manuscript it was Ezra getting into like Remus was like somehow controlled and he like fought Ezra basically to the death and did that and put him in that state. Didn't like it. Felt like it had no like anchor. It just didn't, it made no sense. It's like, how could like Quran come in and control Remus? Makes no sense. Didn't want it. Tossed it out. And so I had to recreate this whole other like epic scene, which I fell in love with. It goes back to like Ezra not being like a full-blooded Celestivine, right? And so Ezra couldn't even sense to protect himself. And like, that's it, just takes him out instantly right there. And so the reader is not only just like, oh my gosh, like, is Ezra okay? Is he going to be okay? Is he going to live? Is he going to survive? But also like, is Remus? The plan for Ezra to teeter on the edge of life and death was always going to stay the same. I wanted it there, especially now because I built that relationship with Iris and Ezra to where they actually do care about each other and see each other as like someone that each of them wants to protect, which is why I wanted to give Iris that moment to step in and like do what she could to what she thought in her mind was just like protect, you know, like if I need to just drag him away from the tent, drag him out of the way, and that's all I can do. I can't get in the way of this fight. I can't do anything. She knows that. Like, she's using her brain now. She's like, okay, that's what I need to do. The battle between Remus and his father was new. So in the original manuscript, literally like he mind controls him and Remus wakes up and he's like locked up and like that's it. For this version, I wanted to show that while we know Remus as like this powerful, omnipotent being, his mother has prevented him from accessing what he could be. We see that when he like fights Quran. I don't know if I hope that it was clear enough, but it's like they're obviously like energy beings and there's like different types of energy or whatever, and Remus can't even like decipher. Every time we're in Remus's point of view and he like makes something disappear or create something or whatever, he always like talks about like the energy and the matter and like figuring out like what it is and like envisioning it and blah blah blah. And it's like in that moment when he was trying to just like protect Ezra or even like fight his father, he just could not even figure out what he was like fighting against, you know? And that right there is just like, okay, like he's a step, like there's going to be a lot of growth that's going to have to happen with him. Yeah, so that's why I added that in there and changed it. I wanted Remus to lose for a second and then realize like not only how fucked he is because of the mom, but because I wanted him to also like feel helpless for a little bit. It's gonna build his character, y'all. It's gonna come back and build his character. But switching from changes to additions, things that I added this one over the summer. This one scene was like literally inspired by my husband 100%. It's the scene before Iris and Remus separate, when he goes like see what's wrong with him, what's going on with him, and they go to like the little river and he teaches her how to swim. My husband and I went on like a honeymoon birthday trip over the summer. We went to Hawaii. I am not a swimmer. I don't know how to swim. I mean, I can swim in like a direction, I guess, like, you know, like the But like if I'm sitting there, I don't know how to tread water. I'm like doggy paddling. I'm like, oh, I'm tired. Let me put my feet down. So snorkeling was not my favorite thing ever. I hated it. I was horrified and terrified, and I don't know why people do that. It was like the worst experience ever. I jumped off the back of the freaking boat, and then there was nothing beneath my feet except for the dark ocean, and I had to like stick my face in the dark ocean and look at how far down the bottom is that I can't. I digress. So while we were staying at like the place that we stayed at, there's like a pool, and he's like, I'm gonna teach you how to swim. Like, I'm gonna teach you now. And he basically was like teaching me how to swim. He was very patient, very thought it was funny, and it was just like, it was a nice moment between us, and it stuck with me. And I wanted that to be a moment between Remus and Iris, because while, I mean, I don't know, I feel like it's a very like intimate thing for someone to take the time out and do that for you. And not only are they like teaching you something new, but they're also like keeping you safe while doing it, keeping you comforted. It's just like, it's a show of love, in my opinion. I wanted to expand on them having like a moment before they left that would like give her hope, and I don't know, I had to use that one. So yeah, that scene was like inspired by my husband, who I love so much. He's my best friend. Another thing that I added was Iris and Remus meeting up multiple times in between him losing his memory and like them trying to get it back. In the original manuscript, I think they like literally met up once, and that was when he like choked her because he didn't know who she was, and then they meet up again at the party. And when I was going through the original manuscript and I got to that scene, I was like, I liked that he like talked to her and she was kind of like reminded of who and how he was before, and I don't know, it just also it would like force her to see the changes that have happened and how like, I don't want to say lucky she is, but like how, I guess like, yeah, like how lucky she is that Remus had softened by the time he met her to like tolerate her long enough to even change to the point that he did. I loved like just kind of being able to tune back into the original Remus and add that fear factor there and get Iris to be like, okay, if he ever comes back, like for sure things were different. So I want to talk about my super big change that I did. What I do is I write the book, and I made Patreon because people like updates and they like following along as I write the book. Whatever I put on Patreon, whatever I write there is never going to be the final copy. It's just what I am writing at the moment and being like, okay, I've got chapter 1, I've got chapter 2, I've got chapter 3, and I'm building the book from that point. Once I finish, I go back again and I start adding, taking away, and editing. And so one huge thing that I changed this time was the whole end. I just did not like it. Originally, Iris had gotten like Ezra out, Shion was like working on him, and suddenly like the mom appeared, stabbed her, and then for whatever reason destroyed like the cliffside, and they fell into like the ocean. And I use this blasé attitude because I'm just like, I look back on it, I can look back on it now and just be like, I didn't like it, it didn't make sense to me. But at the time I was like, ooh, this is like a really good, way or ending or way to take it. So I changed it to where it was more of like acts of desperation, right? Like the mother arrived, she saw like Ezra was dying, she goes to like help Ezra, but make sure to like threaten Iris and keep her in like a threatening position so that if Remus and Kuran turned their attention to her, she had that leverage, which was what that whole final scene that I ended up like changing it to was. That wasn't there originally. I wanted everything that she did to just be desperation. Like I wanted it to be, even stabbing Iris, it was like threatening. It's like it had nothing to do with her wanting to kill her now. It's just like, okay, if you want Remus, if you want control over him, let me like show you what that true control is. Let me show you what he will do. Or even just like to break him, to be like, you can't ever control him. But I ended up changing like that whole thing in the end. I wanted Remus and Shion to be helpless, because even in the original, Shion wasn't helpless. She was like just caught off guard. This time I like wanted her to be helpless. She like didn't know what to do. She didn't know whether to protect Iris or Ezra or try to go get Noah. Like, I wanted like Shion to be stuck with a choice that she did not know how to make. And I wanted Remus to also be like helpless. Originally I had it, he didn't watch it happen. He like saw that it had happened and he was just too weak to like move. But I wanted like everyone to be desperate in that moment. Even when like, so sorry Remus, because I love his long hair. But when his dad was holding him by his hair and he like cut it to get to Iris, I wanted that desperation there, and where like those beams pop up to like control him from the mom because she set the trap, and Iris is like right there and he can't get to her because like it's just like desperation. It's just like from Remus to like Shion, both of them are like screaming like, please, like let us help them, let us save them. And these people who claim to be their parents, like that have done these horrible things, just won't. It's just like, once again, heart-wrenching. It's just like anguish. It's horrible. And I really wanted that. And I felt like when I did the original ending, I didn't get that. I wanted him to like begin the act of destroying the world, but I didn't want him to like go through with it. I wanted it to be like an act of revenge for him. I mean, he's a petty guy, honestly. Other thing I changed was Remus's backstory to like being there. I hinted at it a lot. I don't know if y'all noticed, but like throughout the books or whatever, like how he talks about like not remembering his childhood. It's because he literally didn't exist during that time. His mom kept him in this like black void to control him. That was not there originally. Originally, I just kind of hinted at, you know, her releasing her children into the world. I wanted to be very clear as to how evil she was, also all the shit that she put Remus through. I wanted to be very clear about all of that this time around. I wanted to like emphasize why it was so important that she did everything that she did. She was not just like hiding for herself, like wanting to prevent these kids who couldn't even control themselves, but like had this amazing abilities from, you know, ruining her plans. So that was another thing that I added, was Remus's basically first year on Seranus, and we like get to know his true feelings and why, even though the mom did everything that she did, he still like acted and felt a certain way towards the Leviathan race, which Iris pointed out in the first book. Another thing I added, one that I really wanted, was I wanted Iris to come so close to death, like when Remus is going to destroy the planet and she's just going to be like a byproduct of that. Us back to the first book when he talked about everyone just being casualties of war. Iris almost was because of you, Remus. I really want to foreshadow. I love foreshadowing. I wanted to foreshadow how like powerful Remus is going to be. He was able to like learn how to do this and with revenge on his mind in like 2 seconds. So that was like another thing that I added that I really loved. And I wanted her and Sky to have that moment to where they like really thought they were gonna die together. Once again, trauma bonding. But that's all I have for y'all today. Isn't it pretty? I love this cover. I mean, I love the first one. It's pretty, but this one is like striking, isn't it? Thank you, Joan from Craffigs. She's so wonderful. I just thought this was so perfect. Y'all are gonna love the final book's cover. Currently, I don't have a release date. I don't have a starting to work on date. I don't even have a title for the third book. Originally, the title is titled Revelations. I don't know if I want to keep that. I think I just don't. It's not speaking to me the way like these two do. Genesis is first, Torment, obviously freaking just the anguish and sadness. That's the key word of this book. Anguish. This is like torment for real. Like maybe I should have named it torture, pet torture. Oh wait, no. I cannot describe to you how much I loved writing this book. I love Remus and Iris. They have like a beautiful, beautiful place in my heart. But I am going to take a break from them. I don't know when I'm going to start on the third book. But I know I need to like not jump straight into it, because then I will burn myself out and y'all will not get a good story. But thank y'all for watching. Thank you for being here and listening and caring. I actually did this because a reader messaged me and said she'd gone through all of my videos and was asking me to do like something like this or do like a day in the life and stuff, and I'm like, okay, cool, yeah. And I have been so busy since the release date. Like I don't know why I do this to myself, but if you like follow my Instagram, you know, like I have been going to Pilates. I started Pilates in like April, and I love it. It's fun. This place is really cool. It's called Session, and they do it like to the beat of music as opposed to you just like having background music and like doing reps. It's to the beat of music basically. So I really love it. It's really cool. One of the instructors that I go to her like multiple times a week because I really like going to her classes. They just like announced that they were having auditions for like to be instructor training and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And I was just gonna like leave, but she stopped me and told me I should audition, and I was like, really? Like, you think? And I used to teach Zumba. I haven't taught in a couple years, but I've like done, you know, like teaching before. So I went into the audition. Y'all, when I say I knew nothing about Pilates, like I am so new to Pilates in the Pilates sphere, but I just went, I winged my audition, and I did well enough to be invited to instructor training. And I am like, literally next week is the last week, and then I have mocks, and then once I get through those, I'm going to be a Pilates instructor. So that has literally been my life between like publishing and now. Like I was literally showing up to instructor training early so I could work on editing my manuscript before we started. It was just like so stressful and so crazy, but now things are starting to wind down and calm down, and I can breathe again a little bit. All this to say, I don't really know. Thanks for watching. Comment below what you want to see me talk about next. I mean, obviously, I am going to do an in-depth video of all the changes that I made. I'm going to go through the manuscript and like mark them and stuff so I can talk about them. But I just wanted to give y'all basically like a full summary of Torment and everything that went into it, because it was so fun to write. It was so fun to like work on. I love world building. I love like building character relationships. It was such a freaking great book, and I cannot wait to work on the third one. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Comment below what you want to see me talk about next or what you want to see next. I'm really trying to be good at this YouTube thing. I'm trying to be like much better on my social media. I'm just like literally one of those people who sometimes needs a break. I'm just like, I'm sorry, I gotta detox. I hope you enjoy this video. I hope you enjoy Torment. It's such a good book, I think. Guys, thank you again for watching. I hope to see you guys next time. Bye.